There's an online conversation that has been making the rounds lately, and it starts with the prompt, when did you know he hated you?
Okay, girls, I want to know, when did you realize he hated you? When?
When did you realize he hated you?
Y'all want to know a giveaway to know if your man secretly hates you?
Ending up in a close relationship, in a bond where you've been vulnerable with someone, where you've shared major life events, been intimate with them, only to later find out that they not only did not share the same feelings of love and respect and admiration for you, but even worse, they actively disliked you and wished for your downfall. That has to be one of the most jarring and traumatic experiences on the table. Unfortunately, I think it also might be a universal experience, at least among women. And I say that because of the prevalence of this same dynamic playing out in female friendships as well. I'm pretty sure we've all had at least one friend who actively hated us at some point in our lives. I know I have. But today I want to focus on this phenomenon in romantic heterosexual relationships because the number of men who are currently seeking out those partnerships while carrying a deep-seated dislike of the opposite sex is far too high. First, I'm Hannah Cox. Welcome to my channel where I bring you my politically homeless takes on politics and culture. If you enjoy this show, don't forget to like my video and subscribe to the channel while you're at it. I do release shows every weekday at 7 p.m., so please make sure you tune in and hit that notification bell to get reminders. Also, if you're listening on audio, you can head over to Spotify or to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review, which would really help as well. So I want to pick this conversation up with a post I saw going viral on Twitter yesterday, which brought this entire conversation back to the forefront of my memory. Thanks to Nico on Twitter who brought it to my attention. I appreciate the heads up. Here it is. This guy shared a screenshot from his group chat with another male friend, and it says, one of my friends, a Jew, 8-figure net worth, mid-30s, and handsome, shared his feelings in the group chat tonight. I'm trying to reel him back in, but he's got some good points. What are your thoughts? And this is his friend's text. It says, I hate talking about TV shows. I hate getting a drink. I hate waiting for them to arrive. I hate getting canceled on. I hate thinking maybe she's different. I know they all have a past. I hate wanting to be nice, knowing she's banged a guy who treats her like I hate pretending she has something she can teach me. I hate holding in my fart, gross, when she's over. I hate listening to her political feelings, not her thoughts. I hate having to make every single move or decision while being judged by someone who has nothing to offer me. Whew, let's pause for a drink. Do you guys like my Stand With Rand cup? I just found it. The fact that his friend read this text and thought he has some good points is deeply concerning to me because he really doesn't have good points. He just hates women. This isn't normal. And the fact that too many men are responding as if it is, I mean, red flags all around. There's nothing inherently female about talking about TV shows or getting a drink. This is things men do frequently as well. But if you don't like doing them, then you can seek out a mate who does not do them. I don't typically talk about TV shows because I work too much to watch all that much TV. So I would be a great person to date if you don't like talking about TV shows. Plenty of people don't even drink alcohol. Like, it is completely your prerogative to set the parameters for the kind of person you're trying to date, but to act as if all women fall into these very basic stereotypical categories is utterly ridiculous. It just makes you sound like you haven't gotten out of the house much and don't have a whole lot of exposure to the world around you. When he gets into the other stuff, like I hate getting canceled on, I hate thinking maybe she's different. I mean, yeah, women feel that way before every first date too. I almost canceled my first date with my husband because I was just so tired of first dates and I was not feeling it. And it was February, it was cold. I remember getting dressed and I like put on this ugly outfit with like my man loafers that I love to wear. And I almost walked out of the house like that, which thank God I didn't because he hates my man loafers. But I remember being like, Hannah, if you're going to go, at least put in a little effort. So I did. And I went and guess what? It was different. Okay. Everybody feels that way. That's just kind of the like price you have to pay until you find the right person. And you know what? In the end, it's worth it. But where it gets particularly seedy is when he says, I hate that I know she has a past. I hate wanting to be nice, knowing she banged a guy who treats her poorly. Like, That's deranged, okay? First and foremost, that's not true for all women. Secondarily, it's not her fault if a man treats her poorly, and the fact that she's no longer with that man is to her credit if that made-up scenario in your head is true. But what's weird is the fact that you have this made-up scenario in your head. Like, you have something deeply off with you. You need to go talk to a therapist. Being this consumed with somebody's past relationships is weird and bizarre and indicative of the fact that you are insecure and have not had other relationships. That's all it is. That's really all it is. I understand people who are very religious who want to be with people who have not had a sexual background. If that is the camp you yourself are in, then okay, that's fine. You can find people who are in that camp. But if you yourself are not in that camp, expecting women to be held to some higher standard than you hold yourself to is really bizarre and creepy. The worst part, though, is where he says, I hate pretending she has something she can teach me. I hate listening to her political feelings, not her thoughts. So you don't feel that women are intelligent. You don't think a woman might have something to teach you. You're arrogant and you're misogynistic and you're probably a complete bore. But what might be even wilder than the original take by these two gentlemen from their group chat was some of the responses to them. Here's one example where this guy, Andrew, just had a complete therapy session by himself in the comments of this post. He said, I've thought a lot about this subject. Why do I want a woman sexually, but for nothing else? I'd rather be around men, but that's how society was always structured. Greco-Roman times, men spent all their time with other men. Bathhouses. I can't even read it without laughing. Bathhouses, military camps, tea shops, they were always with other men. Even in the Christian era, though nudity with other men subsided, no more naked wrestling, LOL, men spent all their time together. Every royal house had men-only rooms full of books and hunting trophies that women weren't allowed into, and men of the court spent all of their free time. You guys, I'm literally gonna cry laughing trying to read this. Like, he's thought about this a lot. He's researched this heavily. He longs for the times of Socrates and pedantry and like being able to have a young male companion. Woo! He continues, there's more. He says the kings and lords would spend their entire day around other men. Only recently, with the deaths of male-only civic clubs like the Boy Scouts and Moose Lodge, have men been cut off from each other and expected to spend all their time with one singular woman. Men who spend their time together are a lethal force. It's likely by design that in a feminist and matriarchal society that men are told they are gay for wanting a deep relationship with other men and should be emotionally invested into a woman and serve her needs only. This was never accepted by the age of antiquity or in the heights of our Christian society. Men are to be together, emotionally connected and dependent on each other. Women are to have our offspring and nurture them. They aren't to be our best friend we die with in battle. Like, does he know being gay has always been allowed? Nobody is forcing you to be in intimate connections with women or to have emotional relationships with them. Nobody's preventing you from getting naked with men. Nobody is preventing you from joining male-only spaces. I mean, this is insane. Like, there are still actually male-only bathhouses. I saw one on Buford Highway in Atlanta just a couple months ago, okay? Like, these things are out there. You are free to go find them. No one's making you have heterosexual romantic relationships with women. You were the one who's choosing to forego having that experience with a man and seeking it out with women, and then you're mad about it? Like, make it make sense. I gagged over this response to him. This guy said, pining for the days when you and your bros didn't have to be around women and could hang out all day at a bathhouse and tea shop. Just normal straight guy thoughts. In the times he's talking about, men were doing a lot of gay stuff. Like, yes, it was a cultural norm in the Greco-Roman times that men would be married to a woman who was subservient and who had to like do all the home labor and birth their kids and take care of them. And then the men went out and hung out with young men and definitely didn't do gay stuff, right? They were just mentoring them, but we all know they were. I just think you are so hyper maladjusted if you are living in modern times and wishing for those days, okay? You can live openly and freely as you want now. The vast majority of people in society will support you doing that. What's creepy and weird is to want to find a woman that you can subordinate and have do all of the labor for you and raise your kids without your emotional investment in her while you go hang out with men because you're definitely straight. It's abnormal and it should be studied. If you are seeking out relationships with people you forcefully dislike because you want to use them for their bodies or their labor or to fill the voids in your life, you are a bad person. There's not really any gray area here. However, when I really sit back and contemplate this, I fear there are more men in this camp than I would like to admit. Another person dropped this quote in the comments, which I've seen before. I can't remember who said it. I'm so sorry. I wish I could credit them, but it's making the rounds again in relation to this Twitter thread, and I think it's relevant. And it says, to say that straight men are heterosexual is only to say that they engage in sex with women. All or almost all of that which pertains to love, most straight men reserve exclusively for other men. The people whom they admire, respect, adore, revere, honor, whom they imitate, idolize, and form profound attachments to, whom they are willing to teach and from whom they are willing to learn, and whose respect, admiration, recognition, honor, reverence, and love they desire, those are overwhelmingly other men. In their relations with women, what passes for respect is kindness, generosity, or paternalism. What passes for honor is removal to the pedestal. From women, they want devotion, service, and sex. Heterosexual male culture is homoerotic, it is man-loving. Now, quite obviously, this does not apply to all men, but I would be hard-pressed to present an argument that it doesn't apply to the majority of them. And I think the signs of this are self-evident. If you just look at the average relationship, look at how men view marriage, how they treat that kind of commitment. They drag their feet to go down the aisle. They call their wife a ball and chain when they do have one. A lot of them are slipping out to go golfing every Sunday. They're having boys' nights into their 30s. I mean, obviously, male companionship is good. We've been talking about that a lot in recent months. I have an entire episode talking about the male loneliness crisis and how I think it's mostly men's fault, right? And I say in that episode, they need to be proactive. They need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and go form community. And they need to have good, strong male relationships. I often argue for one of the top things young men should do on the show. I say it's that they should go get a strong, older male mentor. Like, male community is good. So I am in no way arguing against men having friends, having community, having companionship and hobbies, and not relying completely on your spouse as your solo source of support. Like, that's not healthy at all, right? I mean, my husband and I are more joined at the hip than most. We both, mostly work from home. We love being with each other. We are each other's best friends. Like, I love being with my husband. He loves being with me. We like to do things together. Most of our hobbies are aligned. Like, we spend a lot of time together, but that's not how every couple's going to be. There are plenty of couples where that doesn't work out. One person has a different work schedule. One person has different hobbies. Maybe one person has to be on the road a lot. Like, there's all kinds of relationships. So it's not a one size fits all approach. But I think the main point is that ultimately you should be best friends with your spouse. Like, that should be your ride or die, your person. You should really like being with them. You should want to talk to them. You should love being in conversation with them. Like that. I heard a psychologist say not long ago, that's one of the top predictors of a successful relationship is, do you like talking to your spouse? Which just seems so self-evident, right? It seems so obvious. Why does this need to be said? But apparently it has to be said because a lot of people don't like having a conversation with their partner, which is absolutely insane. There is nobody I would rather talk to than my spouse. Like, he literally gives my sister a run for her money, I love getting his opinion. I love just being with him. So if you don't feel that way about the person that you're with, it is unquestionable that you are not with the right person. And if you don't feel that way about anybody of the opposite sex, then you are probably gay, and that is okay. What's odd to me, though, is that these men complain about women, about having to be around them, about the amount of time they spend with them, and yet they still aren't good at forming community with other men either. This person in the comment said, so much of the male loneliness epidemic boils down to the fact that a lot of men just don't like women. They don't find them interesting. They don't enjoy being around them. They want to have a girlfriend in the abstract, but their lives are otherwise entirely homosocial, which I agree with, but I don't even think they're homosocial. They're just completely isolated. It's like they want to have a relationship with women to sort of have an easy way to fill the void in their lives, to have a built-in companion that they don't feel like they have to invest that much time or energy in, but they're also not investing time or energy into their life in other ways. They don't have community with men. And we know statistically that most men, when they do get married, overly rely on their wife to build their social connections, to maintain their familial relations. I mean, this is something women complain about all the time when it comes to having to carry the mental and emotional load in relationships, is that most husbands are entirely dependent on their wives for those kinds of connections to other people too. So it's not just that these men are maladaptive and incapable of forming deep emotional connections with women. They aren't really forming them with anybody. But men, I'm curious. I want to know what you think. Has this ever happened to you in the reverse? Like, men don't tend to come online and share their experiences as much. Have you ever dated a woman who hates you? I feel like it's not likely, because the reason men are more likely to be in a relationship with women while hating women is because men still get a lot of benefits out of being in relationships. We know that men get more benefits from marriage than women do. They still get a lot of baked in services and additives, and that makes them incentivized to pursue relationships with women even when they don't like them. The reverse is not typically true in most female male relationships, but I'm not saying there are no outliers. So I want to know, is this something you have observed going in the opposite direction? Or if you're one of these guys and you've dated someone you hate, can you please explain yourself in the comments? I want to hear your justifications. But really, I do try to read all of your comments. I enjoy looking through them. So please do weigh in. And while you're there, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel too. Also, thanks to popular demand, I do have a little surprise for you at the end of the show that I think I'm going to make a regular occurrence on Friday. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, back to the subject at hand. I think it's interesting that you have a pretty large portion of men these days who are complaining about not being able to find a woman. And yet this mentality is so common in society. And it just seems to me like they're not connecting the dots, right? If you don't like women, women are not going to like you, right? It's not saying nothing ever falls through the cracks, but women are pretty good at sniffing out misogyny. They have to be. This guy said, men will earnestly be like, ladies, I genuinely hate every single thing about you. Why isn't dating going well for me? Women are hyper aware that there is a portion of men who hate them. They have to have misogyny on their radar. As I've said on other episodes, I think misogyny and misandry are both very, very wrong. They are ways of thinking about things collectively, and I reject all collectivist thinking. I think it's asinine, I think it's low IQ, and I think it's morally wrong. You should judge people based on them as an individual. But with all that being said, I do think that one comes first. I think that misandry is typically a reaction to men's misogyny. It is a reaction women start to form after being treated very poorly by men for some time. Whereas misogyny really does tend to come out of absolutely nowhere. You have a lot of men who just do not like women, plain and simple. And I'm not qualified to fully psychoanalyze that. I think there's a lot of things you could say about it. You know, perhaps the fact that they have internalized their hatred towards their dads who've abandoned them and take it out on the person who stayed, which is the mom. Perhaps it is a lot of them, I think, are jealous of women and want to have the position in society that they see as being softer or more privileged that women hold. I think some of it really is a refusal to self-actualize and recognize that perhaps you're not straight. There's a lot of things it could be, but regardless, women know this about men. They know there are a portion of men out there who hate them and who will still use them and be in relationships with them. And so they are very hyper on guard against those kinds of men. And I will say that social media, and particularly platforms like TikTok, have helped women get even smarter. They are sharing red flags. They are communicating with one another. I can't tell you how many videos I have seen go absolutely viral where a woman is either putting her relationship on display or discussing her relationship, and she thinks everything's fine, maybe even good, and other women are like, baby, that man hates you. You need to be on guard. Like, it happens over and over. I mean, here's just a few trends in recent memory that I've seen on TikTok where these videos went absolutely viral, and then people were talking about them for weeks because the signs were so overtly obvious to the vast majority of women looking at these relationships from the outside. I had to remove the sound from this, frankly, iconic New Year's Eve video because of the music in the background, but this video went crazy viral over the holidays, and it was so bad, the girl had to delete her entire account because everyone was like, that man hates you. I mean, people literally thought she might be his stalker when she posted it because he looks like he's seen a ghost. He looks like he's terrified of her, and she's laughing like a maniac. I mean, there were parody videos of this. It really went completely gangbusters. You had this man's friends coming on the internet trying to justify, like, no, he likes her. No, he was happy to see her. But like, no, he wasn't. We can all read the room, right? This is insane. This is not normal. I loved this screenshot I came across. It says, asking him if he even likes me after spending the entire day with him. The guy's got his face in his hands and says, why do girls do this? And somebody responded and said, because guys will spend the entire day with you and then not actually like you. Guys will spend their entire lives with you and not actually like you. Guys will have multiple kids with you and a bank account with you and a mortgage and not actually like you. It's terrifying. I think I can speak for all women when I say, may this love never find me. Horrifying. I think if anything, God forbid, ever happens to my husband, I won't try again. I won't. I'll be like the majority of women. I'll be like, one and done, hit the jackpot once, odds are not in my favor again. I'm going to stay over here in my lane. Like, terrifying. This makes dating terrifying for women. I hear men talk about all the time about how, like, well, this is why men aren't dating anymore. It's why men are giving up on marriage. No, they're not. Women are the ones giving up, actually. We know this through a multitude of statistics, not only on the front end, but also on the back end. They're far less likely to remarry if their husband dies or if they get divorced. They are far more likely to leave the marriages. Men have so many more ways that they are threatening to women in these relationships than women could ever be to men. Men fear a woman deciding that they don't want to be with them anymore, usually after years and years of that man's neglect and emotional abuse and leaving them, and maybe them having to pay the average child support payment, which is like $250 a month. Women are terrified that you hate them, are using them for their bodies and their labors and to reproduce, that you're going to turn them into a house elf slave who's having to do all of the manual labor, and you don't even like them, and then you might leave them if they get sick or get cancer, or you find a younger woman one day, or you might kill them, or you might abuse them, right? There are just so many more threats that women face. So I want to conclude this episode with giving some signs for women that he might hate you, so that you do not go too far down the road with one of these men. Number one, that man is going to be withholding. He's going to be withholding his time, his affection, his money. He's not going to want to do things for you. He's going to act like anything that you need or ask for is a huge lift. He's not going to prioritize you or your feelings. He isn't going to be proud of you. And that's just like kind of the like beginning phases. Usually it's going to escalate to more than that. Usually it will be more than just a lack of effort. It will turn into an actual like offensive campaign. That man's going to put you down, usually jokingly, right? Because they're not going to have the guts to just full on do it. So they're going to do it in very passive aggressive ways. I'm just joking. Ha ha. It's funny. He will do things to you, like pranking you, leaving you. I saw this woman that was apparently married to this guy, and she was filming it for TikTok, and he was literally locking her out of the car and like slowly driving away and making her like chase the car to try to get in. If I was on the jury and she murdered him, I would not vote to convict. I would vote for nullification. That's all I'm saying. They will work to embarrass you. I think a really good example of this, actually, and I can't find too much sympathy for her. I made a video on this hot mess the other day, but Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' marriage, which was somehow held up in the media as being cutesy and desirable, I guess because they have the media on their payroll, but it was for many years. They are a good example of this in real time. And I always thought it was absolutely disgusting.
Okay, I was going to let this lie, but since we are talking about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds again, I have something that I've been sitting on for months, and we need to talk about it. I am fully convinced that there has to be a connection between this humor that this couple specifically coined, a direct line from that to
millennial
women finding out via TikTok that their husbands hate them.
It's not even that they found out on TikTok, it's that they married husbands that hate them because they incorrectly categorized it as cute and funny and like what Ryan Reynolds does, but really your husband or boyfriend just hates you.
I'm not speculating what actually goes on between them,
And we don't care.
And I ultimately don't care. But this whole like public spectacle that they've been playing for the last 10 years, and the media outlets completely latched onto it and was like, couple goals, like 20 times Ryan totally owned Blake on Instagram. And it's like him posting bad pictures of her and being like, my wife is a piece of shit. Like here I goes, if there's ever a fire, I'm grabbing this first. I'll come back for Blake. And I have to believe that this led an entire generation of women to be like, when a man was just outright being mean to them, being like, we kind of have that Ryan and Blake thing going on.
Yeah, we kind of have that cute little dynamic where he sort of bullies me online, roasts me.
He posts like unflattering photos of me, and I just like love that.
He flames me publicly.
These like innocent women will post TikTok being like, did this funny trend with my husband, and he's like, you look like fuck. And she's like, he's just crazy like that. And all the comments, this is really sad, my mama. This is really sad, chica.
Twice.
So yeah, avoid the Ryan Reynolds types. Furthermore, and I think the biggest sign is that the man will not like other women, okay? Only pick me's fall for this. I don't usually like other women, but I like you. Most women aren't smart like you. No. If he thinks that most women are stupid or emotional or whores or whatever else, he hates women. And if he tells you, like, you're not like the other girls, he's telling on himself. Because they want to tell on themselves ultimately. I think they are dying to tell on themselves. They're dying to be discovered because they know that they are frauds. And I think really this stems from the fact that they hate themselves too. But if he's telling you that he doesn't like other women, he doesn't like you either. You are not the exception. You are the rule. And you're just such a pick-me that you're falling for that BS. He also won't have any other female connections or strong female mentors or role models in his life. Anybody that he looks up to, he won't read females. He won't listen to females. You can very quickly ascertain this. This is why I've said in other episodes that I think that should be a first date question, right? Like, who are your favorite artists? Who are your favorite authors? Who are your favorite painters? Whatever medium, but like, who do you consume? Who do you listen to? Who do you read? Who do you think is a thought leader? If there are no women in that mix, he probably hates women. So there you go, girls. That is your like checklist, okay? You should be looking for these things early on in a relationship. And if you are a man who has been doing this, who has been pursuing relationships with people you don't like, stop it. Go get some help. Go do some work. Examine that. It's not a normal thing to do, and it's not an ethical thing to do. All right, guys, I think we covered our bases here. And with that being said, it's time for our new segment. Come on, up. You gotta participate. Phoenix Fridays! Back by popular demand, we got lots of requests for more Phoenix Time In episodes, so I decided that we'll have a Phoenix Friday segment, because everybody needs a little more Phoenix in their lives. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to support my show, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. Consistently tuning into my episodes is the best way to help me grow, and it means the world to me. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.